I made the statement. It might have been one, possibly at the outside, 2 weeks after the national championship game, that we are going to be discussing the quarterback battle every week. So we might as well just get used to it, or you guys will be discussing it. I will learn and listen for the next, 40 weeks. And here we go with David Knight. Of course, another update. They're at least practicing, and since you guys get to see these guys stretch, you should have tremendous insight into who's the most flexible, at least, I think. Steve, we'll start with you. The latest in the three-man quarterback battle.
Yeah, update on the quarterback battle. I mean, we don't get to watch a lot of the 11 on 11. I think maybe 10 plays of that, 15 plays, who knows, the other day. Out of 15 days of practice, I mean, they're probably going to have 400 plays of that. So I don't think that the percentage of the amount of time that we get to watch is enough to make any kind of a value judgment. That's the first problem. The second problem is Ryan Day isn't taking the bait and isn't listing the guys 1, 2, 3 on a daily basis for public consumption. So you just go off what you're hearing, little drips and drabs again here and there. All you can go by is what you see, and you see that Stroud is consistently taking the reps with the ones, then Jack Miller 2, and McCord 3. McCord did throw an interception, it sounded like, in the red zone drill the other day, but my guess is all three of the guys have thrown interceptions at points in time when the media wasn't there. So, you can't draw any conclusions from it. You can't get excited about it. I think what you have to be excited about are the raw skills of the individual guys who can each drive the ball down the field and make plays. And so, again, not enough evidence to where we can concretely say this guy is going to start. And the thing is, I was asked about this the other day, just tooling around town. A friend of mine asked me about it, and I was like, who knows? Even today, they're only 8 practices into spring football. They'll have another 7 practices here and 29 practices in the preseason. So you've got another 36 practices or something, 37 practices to where that decision can be made fully before the first game. So I'm not of a mind to worry too much about who is number one today. And I don't even think we can truly speculate who is number one today, other than to go off what they've shown us, which is Stroud slightly, then Miller, then McCord. But you could basically, throw a blanket all over all three of them, and they'd be all basically in the same spot.
Yeah, we're going to be asked about it each week, and that's fine. I mean, it's really the most visible story out there. So, I'm ready to answer questions each week about the quarterback position, but it's, to go to a David Byrne thing, same as it ever was. I mean, we're not going to really know a lot at this point because of the fact that, they're in spring practice. They're not going to name a starter. They're not going to name a pecking order at the end of spring. We're not going to have anything in summer. We're not going to have anything for a good part of fall practice. I mean, it would not surprise me the way that we've moved away from depth charts and everything, that we don't really know for sure until somebody trots out there at TCF Bank Stadium on the first game of the season when Ohio State plays at Minnesota. So, we can sit there and gather, the fact that, as Steve had said, and we've all seen, that CJ Stroud goes out there for the first reps, but, they're fully aware that we're there. So, I mean, they can sit there and control a message by doing whatever they want to. But, yeah, we've kind of seen the order of Stroud, Miller, and then McCord. But, as soon as we're ushered into the Biggs lobby and on our way out of there, they could flip it around. So I'm assuming all three of these guys are getting to work with the ones and getting to work with the twos and whatnot. So, it's just a matter of being able to go out there, put in good work, learn the offense as much as you can. They're not really installing, they're installing what it is they do. They're not installing anything, preparing for an opponent or any of that kind of stuff. It's, get good fundamentals. You guys have not really been involved in a lot of collegiate practices. For you two, CJ and Jack, you guys were here, but you were backing up Justin Fields. here's your opportunity to get a lot more of that fundamental stuff that you would have lost last year. And then, I think it's just going to be a situation of come August 15th or something like that. I think we really kind of circle back to this at that point and see if we really can gather anything else, because other than that, it's just all a focus on making sure that they understand the tenets of the Ohio State offense, that they have footwork, they have, they're managing, release point, things like that. So, I don't know. We're no closer to knowing anything, and I don't think that there's going to be any grand moment in the coming couple of months that we're going to sit there and say, that's the clue we needed. Now we know what's happening.
Yeah, and the clue is just when we're there, if it's always the same guy taking the reps with the one, that's the one clue we have to go on right now. But Day says they rotate through and it changes every day, which is also, I believe, what he used to say when it was Justin Fields and Matthew Baldwin, and we know how that went. But the good thing is I don't see a huge difference between any of these three quarterbacks, which, knowing how talented they all are. I think whoever wins the job is the favorite for the all Big Ten quarterback, or maybe even the silver football, and is a Heisman contender. And I think any of the three are talented enough to do it. And just depending on the day, one guy will have a good day. Next day, somebody else. And then, maybe towards the end of camp, Kyle McCord is really starting to look like he belongs. What will be fun is when everybody gets to see them participate in the spring game. Everybody has their one glimpse, and that will be where they make their big-time judgment. And I'll just remind people, that's one of about 30 or 40 practices. That's just one slice of what the quarterbacks are doing. So I wouldn't go crazy, because we've seen performances in the past where quarterbacks have been up and down in a spring game and has had no bearing on their actual performance. And Justin Fields his numbers weren't great in 2019 in that spring game, and people were overreacting to that, and I pointed out all but three of his throws hit receivers in the hands. They just didn't catch them, and a few of them he had to throw away. And so don't go overboard on the spring game performance. Even though the Wednesday after the spring game, we will definitely go overboard on it.
4 for 15, if I remember correctly, for Justin Fields. That was splattered all over social media for days, that he was a disaster. Things changed, or maybe that just didn't matter much, I think would be the latter. Couple things, Tony. Let's rewind about a minute here. What was the statement about Heisman candidacies and so forth for the winner of this quarterback battle?
Sure, you're the Ohio State quarterback. You're going to throw for 3,500, 4,000 yards, 40 touchdowns. I mean, that's just what Ryan Day does. Now, it's going to be a guy who's never done it before, and so there's certainly a lot of projecting. But you've got Chris Olave, you've got Garrett Wilson, you've got Jeremy Ruckert, you've got all of these young receivers, and you have the two best, possibly the best bookend tackles in college football this year. Everything is set up for this quarterback, whoever it is, to put up very good numbers and look very good. Now it's just a matter of the execution and that, but everything is set up for them. They just have to be able to process it.
I think what Tony's speaking to here is why you recruit at this level in droves. You got three of these guys. They could all three turn out to be outstanding quarterbacks. Of course, that's not going to be proven at Ohio State. One or two of them will move on. Most likely one of the three, I would guess, would be the odds in regards to moving on somewhere else in the next 2 to 3 years, or maybe the next year. But the probabilities say that at least one of them is going to hit and be the guy that is expected to be an Ohio State caliber quarterback. You guys have thrown around the depth chart in regards to the release of the depth chart, that there is no depth chart. Has that changed in recent years?
I mean, they kind of been dipping their toe in the water where we weren't getting it at the beginning of the week and we were getting it leading into the game. Friday, if you will, and then it was, okay, here it is 2 hours before the game. But you would sit there and you would look on the field and you would kind of see who traveled anyway to get some ideas. To now, I mean, if there's not going to be any punishment from the conference or anything else for not putting one out, I don't know why you put one out, to be quite honest. There's no real reason to do it. I mean, this isn't the NFL. We don't truly have injury reports or anything else. I mean, I don't know why people, why they're going to put depth charts out. I mean, as a writer, I love depth charts, especially for the teams I don't cover, because it helps me kind of get an idea of what it is I'm looking at. But, it's not something that's been going on for, 5-7 years or anything. I don't even know if I want to put this all at the feet of Ryan Day. I mean, we have had a worldwide pandemic happen as well that have kind of made some very different circumstances that we've lived under. But I think they've let that genie out of the bottle, and they're not going to put it back in. I'm not expecting us to go back to getting a depth chart on Tuesday when we're getting ready to talk to Ryan Day and get our game notes.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just kind of something that they don't see a lot of value in, apparently. And, that's fine. I still construct my own for the different stories that I do, and to try and help people at least follow the team a little closer, I guess, and understand why certain guys are playing and maybe certain guys aren't. And, it's interesting. People are worried in April what the depth chart looks like. And it's like, their own internal depth chart changes almost daily. So guys moving between 1s and 2s and 2s and 3s and vice versa. So I think that, you just have to kind of take it with a grain of salt and understand that the best players are going to play in the fall, and that's how it's going to be.
I'm always interested when I see like Iowa or some other school release a spring depth chart, like before anything happens. It's like, wow, that must be nice for the writers and the fans just to be able to talk about it. And I think their coaches have pecking orders because they've run reps in order of, the leaders do it first. And so there is some pecking order. It's just interesting that some schools will put that out there and others won't. And there's no benefit to it, but for the team, it's just interesting where you've got guys who have just always done it that way, and others who are like, well, why do I need to do it that way? I'm not doing that.
Well, if you have, if you have to sit there and name a starting 11 on each side of the ball, and you really only have 23 guys that are ready to go, I mean, it kind of writes itself. But at Ohio State, there's so much competition in terms of how they recruit, and just the attrition cycle of guys going to the league or just leaving because the opportunity isn't there for them. So, Ohio State may be trying to fill those 22 spots instead of out of 23 or 24 guys with, out of 45 guys or 60 guys. Or, and you're always, I go back to the Urban Meyer, 20, 60, 20, 20 guys are going to surpass expectations. 60 guys are going to be at expectations, and 20 guys not so much. So, if you extrapolate that over 85 scholarships, you're going to still end up with, if you're saying 80 guys are going to be, or 80% are going to be above the cut line, what are you at, in the mid 60s of guys that are going to be able to at least compete to be on a 2 deep or whatnot. So I think that, at your places like Ohio State, Alabama, some of your top programs, is probably a little bit different to come up with that depth chart. There's certainly you want to carry over previous starters. There's going to be a lot of that's going to happen there, but it's just not as cut and dry as it might be somewhere else where there's just not the depth of talent.
Well, and you look at like in Iowa where you basically start with like, okay, who are our 4th-year juniors? Like, who are the guys who have been around longest? And those are the older guys, because there's so much development that goes on there. Yeah, so you're right. There would be fewer guys to choose from. Like, what you got, one's a buffet and the other is basically the school cafeteria type of thing in terms of choice, not quality.
Tony playing the part of Colin Cowherd today.
Oh gosh,
who
drinks
glancing
soda?
Iowa.
It's soda, not pop.
I've also got to think that this this quarterback battle is going to play into what's decided about how to format the spring game, because there's obviously different ways to do that. I don't know if Urban Meyer did it the same way every year, and Ryan Day has changed up from that. I haven't kept track, but of course you got a quarterback who can start for each side, and then do you float the other guy to get him equal reps?
That's a great question. I'm not sure how they'll do it. They have done it in the past where maybe the two most tenured guys would head up the two teams, and then the third guy would float between the other two the two teams or whatever. But it's hard to say what they'll want to do. But I think they'll probably get equal reps one way or the other, and it's what you do with those opportunities. That's what I think the coaches are looking for. When you have an opportunity to make a play, did you make a play? When you had an opportunity to get us out of a bad play, did you get us out of the bad play and into a good play? So they want to try and put them in some positions that can illustrate their strengths and weaknesses. And it's interesting to me, we're down to 10 days before this game, and we still haven't heard anything definitive about what the few fans who are going to be able to attend. As far as I know, I think they did put some feelers out there for some people to respond to pick up some tickets, but it's been very hush-hush, it seems to me, so far. It doesn't look like public's going to be invited, so other than just a few select people. So that'll be interesting itself, but that's kind of the day and age that we're living in right now. And as I said, I got my second shot today, and we're moving closer and closer to what we hope is going to be a more normal second half of 2021.
And you're feeling good, Steve?
I'm feeling good so far. It was the second dose of the Pfizer, so I don't know if that's
dead arm is coming. Dead arm is coming.